All right, so today I want to share with you a few really powerful and even pivotal insights when it comes to self-healing and transformation and really stepping into more ease and flow in life. In fact, for today's episode, I worked with a beautiful volunteer. Her name is Tanya, and by using some of the insights that I'm about to share with you, she was able to release her pain. So she had hip pain, she also had neck pain, and she was able to get her neck pain from a level 6 down to almost gone, about a level 1. And she was able to get her hip pain gone. And she's been just struggling with a variety of different health issues and trying to heal and really change her life in a major way. And yet she's been stuck. Now, one of the things, by the way, that I really love about Tanya, so many things. I mean, she just has this beautiful heart. She's sweet, just really, really precious. And she's smart. And yet she has been stuck for so long trying to figure out why. And by the way, as I started to work with her, I could see the reason that she was stuck. It's because a lot of what was going on in her mind was extremely counterintuitive. And to give you an example, one thing was this, is that she had it linked up in her mind that if things are really, 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 really bad, that's when you deserve help. Or if you get really, 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 really frustrated, that's when you deserve a breakthrough. And so if you think about it for a moment, if somebody has to be really, really, really in bad shape to have things finally work out, or that somebody will then finally come help, and that's linked up in the mind, it creates patterns of hardship. And that's the counterintuitive part, is when you stop and think about it for a moment, so often the mind can get linked up to something that it doesn't want. And an example that you hear me use all of the time is this, is you've probably heard somebody do this before, where somebody says something like, "Oh, I look horrible in this." And then what is somebody else supposed to say? "No, you don't. You look amazing." Now, the problem with that is that a person has to criticize themselves. So they have to say, "I look horrible in this." And somebody else then says, "No, you don't. You look great." So it links up reassurance and reward, like a compliment for self-criticism. Now, of course, a person isn't trying to criticize themselves, but that's what happens, is that then it links up in the mind a positive thing with a negative thing, and it repeats the pattern. So in her case, she felt like, okay, well, if things are really bad, then that's when she deserves something. Like that's when she deserves a break. And by the way, you may have heard people even say that very thing before in life, where somebody might say this. They might say, "You know what? I had a really hard day. I deserve a break." But what if somebody just deserves a break because they deserve a break, or some time for themselves, some time to enjoy, and they don't need to have a hard day or a hardship or a hard problem? And that's my point, is exactly that, is all of the time people can get linked up negative things to something positive, and then it perpetuates in the subconscious mind, and it repeats and it creates the pattern of what's really unwanted by the conscious mind. You know, another example is this, is that maybe you've heard before that a little child can have an owie, and a loving adult can come by and say, "Let me kiss that owie and make it better." What happens in that case? Well, love can get linked up to owie, not because somebody wants it to get linked up, but because the two things happened at the same time. And so the insight that I want to share is exactly that, is that you'll want to make sure that you're not linking up something negative to something positive, because as soon as that happens, it can perpetuate the problem. And even if the logical mind knows better, and another example, just because it's so counterintuitive, I just want to give you a few examples to really understand it, because it doesn't make logical sense. But it makes logical sense when you think about the mind. And so another example, another unfortunate example is this, is a cutter, somebody who cuts themselves might cut themselves and it gets linked up to relief or euphoria or control or safety from cutting themselves. Now, of course, they didn't link that up on purpose, but that can get linked up in the subconscious mind. Or somebody can get it linked up that drugs are cool and then feel so addicted to drugs because it's programmed in their mind at a deeper level. And so my point is that this deeper level of subconscious programming that doesn't necessarily make logical sense can control your life, your health, your happiness, so many things, create hardship. And that's the very thing that was happening with our beautiful volunteer, is that as we started working with her and her mind, and she's been dealing with this ongoing pain. And so as we started to just shift her mindset, she was able to release her own pain. So again, her pain went from like a level 6 in her neck down to about a 1, and her hip pain went from a 4 to a 0. Now, by the way, if that sounds impossible to you, you'll hear me say it all the time, but I understand. And my work has also been published in a medical journal where you can see before and after images. So you can see where somebody was in pain, and then they used their mind, and you can see the pain relief. Okay? And so, and don't get me wrong, it does take real follow through. So I want to emphasize that it really does take follow through. It takes a genuine change. But my point is that as you're working with your mind, rewiring your mind at a subconscious level is crucial for getting results and really going and creating a deeper shift. And so even as I worked with our beautiful volunteer, I wasn't just bringing in happy thoughts and positive thoughts. It was really about shifting her mindset to see that she doesn't need hardship. She doesn't need to have hardship or problems or sympathy to get love and attention and connection, which once she started to see it in a different way, she was like, of course, like she's brilliant. And yet this was programmed in at such a young age, it was driving her life at an unconscious level. And so those are the insights that I want to share with you today. Now, by the way, I just have to say, this episode is divine timing, because literally like a week and a half ago on a previous podcast episode, I was talking about this very thing, about linking up positive and negative. And part of the reason is because, I mentioned with our beautiful volunteer that this negative link got connected in her mind. And technically it was actually with her mother, where she saw with her mother, she just felt like if things were hard enough, and she was struggling enough that finally, if it got bad enough, somebody would come in and help and fix it. And that's what got linked up for her over and over and over in her subconscious mind. And so things always had to get really bad. And so that got linked up. But all of the time I see people on the spiritual journey or self-help and self-healing journey who end up accidentally wiring that in their mind and creating these connections, not inadvertently. So it's not an intentional thing. And this is what I mean. I can't tell you how often people have said, they take some type of negative situation, negative problem or illness, and they go, oh, that turned out to be a blessing in disguise, or that turned out to be a gift. And what happens is, of course, if they link something up to being a gift, the mind doesn't want to get rid of it. Or it keeps repeating the pattern. They go, oh, that illness was a gift. So it perpetuates it. So if you link up in your mind that you need a crisis, or you need things to get bad enough to be able to have support, or you need things to be really bad, if you had a horrible day, you deserve a break, then your mind is going to want to subconsciously head in that direction. Or if you lean towards something that says, oh, that thing was a gift or a blessing, your mind will want to go in that direction. And I see it all of the time. So my point is not only was this miswired mind programming very powerful for her in shifting out of her pain and creating that awareness, she could see and feel the difference by seeing things in a different way. And so not only was that pivotal for her, but the insight that I really want to emphasize is so often I see people who are on the self-help or personal development or self-healing journey, and they're accidentally reinforcing negative programming to their mind. And so they stay stuck or even get more stuck because they're accidentally rewiring their mind in a negative way. And so I always emphasize that. Now, by the way, my program, like going through my courses, it's called the gift method. And so it's not linking up gift to negativity or hardship or illness. Instead, it's the gift method. It's about following through and creating a change to get the real gift. The real gift is love, is happiness, is joy, is positivity. And so just emphasizing that. And again, this episode and this beautiful volunteer is just divine timing. I could not have planned it better, because this is the very thing that I've been talking about on the recent episodes, is this miswired mind. And just because I see it so often where people are trying to think positive and do affirmations and visualization and do all of the things, if you will, and yet their mind and their healing, it stays stuck because they're not really rewiring and identifying these issues at the subconscious level and then fixing them. And so that's the insight that I want to share with you today. And by the way, if you'd like to listen to this entire session where I worked with our beautiful volunteer, Tanya, you can do so. The link is in the show notes, so you can listen to this entire session and you can see the insights from it, because it's really, really powerful. So that is there. By the way, if you want to understand mind-body healing at a deeper level, there is also a free training that's available. Or if you'd like to see my work in the medical journal, that is there too. So you can see the before and after images, because you start to see how truly amazing we all really are. And so those are the insights that I want to share with you today. And of course, there are even more on the actual session itself, so you can check that out. But as always, I want to ask you to please do take just a quick moment to hit the share button on this episode. Share it with somebody you love, somebody you care about, or somebody you don't even know, because the more that every single person in our world feels healthy and happy and loved and loving, the better this world is for all of us. And so please do take just a quick moment to hit the share button, and please do make a point to have an incredible rest of your day. And I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. We'll see you there.